Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing here giving you my personal prediction for the Bantamweight title clash between champion Riel Casimero and Guillermo Rigondeaux. And as always, this is just my personal take. Your prediction can be left down in the comments section below. Would love to hear them all. A little bit of fight info here. We have Riel Casimero taking on Guillermo Rigondeaux. This is for Casimero's WBO Bantamweight title, taking place, of course, at 118 pounds. This will be at the Dignity Health Sports Park in CARSON, California. Terrible name, change it. And on the channel, of course, Showtime. And it's an interesting fight to some extent, but mainly based on the idea that Rigondeaux may have one more solid performance left in him. If he's 80% of what he once was on the night, could be very interesting. However, if he's a faded, inactive 40-year-old just showing up for a payday or on some, false hopes, this might be a bit one-sided. And while you won't know for sure until the night, let's try and figure it out and get through the breakdown of this fight. Starting with Casimero here, I think the left hook upstairs will be key. As he's aged and his reflexes have slowed, the left hand up top has landed more and more on Rigondeaux. In truth, at the southpaw, it was always a shot that had some success against the once elusive Cuban. For Casimero, this is nearly perfect, as he has a tremendous left hook. The only issue is he can get a little wild and a bit overzealous with it at times. That's why he will benefit from keeping it tight and composed and throwing it when he has an understanding of how to avoid the straight left-hand counter that Rigondeaux will most certainly try to throw. I would also say he needs to make Rigondeaux feel his age. At 40, Rigondeaux is going to want to fight a slow, measured contest, and for several reasons, that doesn't really favor Casimero. If you're Riel, you're going to want to keep the tempo high and force exchanges and activity. It improves your chances, of course, of landing something big against Rigondeaux, and it also tires the gold medalist down the stretch. And that's going to be something that pays off when he's feeling the pace of the action and Casimero is just growing stronger and more into the fight. I would also say one way you can kind of further that positioning is dig those shots into the body. One specific way to make him feel that pace is by going to the body. Casimero enjoys going to the body anyway, so especially against an older fighter, this makes all the sense in the world. The area of concern here is doing this too often and letting Rigondeaux counter. While his reflexes and timings might be off a bit, Guillermo still has solid speed, so give him enough openings and he could make one shot pay off for himself. So you have to make sure to kind of balance going to the body with being defensively responsible upstairs as well. Now for Rigondeaux to win, I think he needs to dictate the pace and distance. How fast the fight is fought and at what distance the war will be waged will be vital for Rigondeaux. At 40 years of age, he just can't afford to get into fights where the action is all over the place and Casimero is able to shift him, spin him around, and kind of rough him up on the inside. It just doesn't benefit him, obviously. In bursts, he could make that work. He could counter him, he could tie him up himself, he can do some of his own kind of dirty tactics in there, but long term, that sounds far too much like a Casimero fight and really like it's going to zap too much of Rigondeaux's sort of limited gas tank and his reserves to begin with. So just use that jab, tire your man out, tie him up a little bit, simple things that can slow him down and keep him at bay. I would also say look to time the left uppercut. One shot that can both score really well for Guillermo as well as help convince Casimero to stay outside is a well-placed left uppercut. Rigondeaux has a good one and Casimero can at times jump in wildly, especially with that left hook he likes to throw. And if Rigondeaux can time it right, it could be a fight-winning shot for him, especially if he frustrates Casimero with the jab and he forces him to want to initiate again a little more wildly with his attacks, leaving himself far more susceptible to those bigger shots. And finally, I would say avoid trading and making it a brawl. Again, this is ultimately for Rigondeaux what it's going to boil down to in terms of, this needs to be a boxing match and not an actual physical fight. One where both men kind of have to think and try to match skills. Because even at his advanced age, Rigondeaux might be able to think his way to a close decision win, possibly even earn a stoppage depending on exactly how overzealous Casimero might try to get. The more the boxing match turns into a fight, and the more I tend to favor the younger, fresher man. So counter well to keep him honest, and use your bag of tricks to keep him tame. Ultimately, when it comes to my pick, the skill of Rigondeaux has always impressed me, but it's hard finding a way to pick him in a fight like this one. Casimero is exactly the kind of guy you avoid if you're, again, an older, once great fighter. I hate to bring up the age thing so much in this breakdown, but it really is kind of the thing that's at the forefront of my mind here. Casimero is confident. He's younger. He believes in his power and also has enough skill to make this fight rather bad for Guillermo. Barring John Riel being caught by some massive left-hand counter he doesn't see coming, I see him getting busy early on, landing those left hands, especially the left hook itself, digging to the body and really working Rigondeaux over and getting him pretty, pretty sustained beating for him as the fight goes on, probably stopping him into the mid to the late rounds, somewhere in that range. In fact, if you press me on it, I think it ends in those middle frames. Casimero via mid-fight stoppage. And unfortunately, haven't been able to find any betting odds on this one, so I can't really give you much of a breakdown there. It's really hard to say exactly what they would be. There's so many different variables, of course, with this particular fight. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably around a 350, 450 in minus for Casimero, maybe a 260-ish, plus 260 for Rigondeaux, but I mean, I am completely pulling that out of my rectum. I have zero idea as to what the real odds for this fight would be. They shouldn't be too much more wide than that because, again, that's a little bit of a disservice to Rigondeaux, but I do see Casimero as a pretty solid favorite going into this fight, regardless of what the odds end up being. In any event, my prediction record going into this weekend is 25-7-3 with 11 exact. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Would love to hear it all there. Tell me your thoughts on the fight, what you think the odds might be. Who do you got going into it? Do you see an upset? Is it possible for Rigondeaux to win this one? Let me know your thoughts, predictions, bets, so on and so forth. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow. At jcalderon_JOB. You can email me at jonboxing@gmail.com. Love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out jonboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.